Welcome to Plutus Project-Based Learning 2023 from Gimbal Labs. Thank you for watching this video. In this module, we've been looking at all sorts of different ways to mint tokens. And in this video, we will cover, for now, our fifth and final way, minting native assets using Plutus minting scripts that were compiled from Aiken. In this video, we'll take a quick look at how to compile a simple Plutus minting validator script from Aiken, and then we'll skip this second step, using the script to build, sign, and submit a minting transaction. The reason we can skip it is that it's exactly the same as in the previous lesson, 202.4. Here are the connections from this lesson to some previous ones. If you'd like to get started for the first time writing any sorts of contracts in Aiken, please take a look at lesson 101.5. And if you'd like to use a Plutus script, like the one we're going to compile in this lesson, you can refer to lesson 202.4 to see an overview of how to use a shell script to help us out with minting native assets on Cardano. I'm sharing this diagram to help make a really important point. There are several different ways to create a policy ID that can mint a new token. Game Changer automates all of the steps, but if you want full flexibility, you may decide to create your own native scripts or Plutus scripts. If you go the Plutus route, you have a choice from a growing menu of different smart contract programming languages that compile to Plutus Core. And whether you use a Plutus script or a native script, at the end of this pipeline, you'll have a policy ID and some kind of minting script to go with it. And when you get to this point right here, your options reset completely. The way you decide to create a minting policy is independent of how you actually choose to build transactions. You can mix and match options as you go. So in this video, we'll take a quick look once again at how to create a minting policy with Aiken, and I hope you're seeing the context that smart contract programming languages fit into. As usual, we can follow along with the documentation below this video. I'm going to assume that you already have Aiken installed, and if you don't, make sure to look at lesson 101.5. Even if you did install Aiken previously, it's being updated frequently. So it's a good idea to update your installation of Aiken, especially if you haven't done it in a while. To do that, I can use this command, cargo install from this Git repo. I can copy this, open a terminal window, and run this command. Now you can see I'm all up to date with the most recent version of Aiken, v1.0.2-alpha. But of course, if I was running an earlier version of Aiken, this command would update it for me. Next, we can create a new Aiken project. I have a directory dedicated to Aiken on my computer, so the first thing I'll do is navigate there, and then I'm going to build a new Aiken project by running the command aiken new. Aiken is designed so that you must specify an owner of a project before the slash and then the name of the project after it. So that's why I'm including PPBL 2023 right here. Let's run these steps. I can navigate to my Aiken directory, and right now it happens to be empty. I can run aiken new and then the name of my project, and then I can follow the last two steps that are shown here. Change directories into my new one and run aiken check. And I do love a summary that says 0 errors and 0 warnings. Great. Let's keep going. Here in this project, I have a validators directory, and in it, I can create a new file called whatever I'd like. In this case, I'm going to use the file name minter.ak. Like this. And I gotta say, this developer experience is really nice. The Aiken team has put in the work to do some of the little things that just make development a little bit more delightful. Look at that little Aiken logo. Provided in the documentation is a simple Aiken validator. Let's read this together. In Aiken, the word use has the same purpose as the word import in JavaScript. I'm going to import or use the Aiken/transaction.script context that's provided in the Aiken language. Then I'm going to build a validator. I write the word validator and I open and close some curly brackets. Inside the validator, we create a function that, just like a Plutus TX validator, returns a Boolean. That's what validators do. They say true, you can mint these tokens or unlock these UTXOs, or they say false, you can't. Inside of this validator, we'd like to take a look at the context of the transaction in which it's being used. That's what script context is. It allows the validator to see some of the details about the transaction in which the validator script is being used. And one of the things we want to check is that the purpose of this particular transaction is minting. In other words, this validator should only validate if it's being used to mint assets, not if it's being used to unlock UTXOs. So it's nice to define that. There's more we could do with context, but this is a pretty nice start. And you might find that this little bit right here turns into boilerplate that you're using quite frequently. The custom logic of this validator is right here. And if you followed along with lesson 202.4, I hope that this part looks familiar. We pass a redeemer to this function. What's the type of the redeemer? Well, it's an integer, just like it was in the previous lesson. And what does that integer have to be equal to in order for this validator to return true? The same number that we saw in lesson 202.4. There are now two options right in front of us. You can look at a very similar validator right here in Aiken, or, as in the previous lesson, in Plutus TX. Which one do you like better? Personally, I haven't decided yet, but I'm having a good time exploring. Let's take this code and see if we can get it to work. I'll copy it, I'll drop it into my new minter.ak file, and I'll save. Then I can move on to step 4. All I have to do now is run Aiken build. Let's do it. Aiken build. Very nice. Once again, no errors and no warnings. And after running this Aiken build step, you can see that I now have a plutus.json file in the root directory of this project. There are a few really interesting implications to this file, and we'll start talking about more of them in Module 203 when we talk about standards. Right now, I would just like you to notice that the output from Aiken build is a little bit different, maybe even a little bit more opinionated than what we get when we compile a simple Plutus script from Plutus TX. Now, with that said, what if I want a Plutus file that looks a bit more familiar, like the kind that I can create when I compile from Plutus TX? Luckily, there's a built-in function for that in Aiken. We can use Aiken blueprint convert to make the file we're looking for. This command will only work after you run Aiken build. You got to run the Aiken build step first, and then from that, we can use blueprint convert. Aiken blueprint convert. And look at this. This looks just like the contents of the sort of .plutus file I'm already familiar with. I'm just going to create a new file in the root of my project called aikenminter.plutus. Then I'm going to copy this output here. And just like that, I've got a file that looks just like the one I created in Plutus TX, just with a little extra description right here. That's a good reminder. This was generated by Aiken. From here, I'm going to leave it to you. Remember, now that we have this .plutus file, it really doesn't matter where it comes from. When you're building a transaction, whether your untyped Plutus core was generated from Aiken or Plutus TX or PluTS or any one of the other new smart contract languages that are rolling out right now, if you compile down to a target file that looks like this one, the steps to using it in building a transaction will be the same. So I hope you'll give it a try. Use the shell script that was introduced in lesson 202.4 to now take this script file instead and see if you can mint tokens with it. As always, I can't wait to hear your ideas and your questions now that you're exploring a little bit more in depth what we can do with Plutus. Is there a long way to go? You know there is. Right now, you're building up your background knowledge, and we will continue to go deeper together. See you soon.